Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, it's so interesting how the media is desperately clinging on to the same tired narrative, a fake phenomenon that they've been trying to build out of thin air, basically since the moment Donald Trump was inaugurated. This idea that Trump voters are having regrets, Trump buyer's remorse. You know, they've tried to build this narrative by pushing these stories of disgruntled federal employees who got fired probably because their roles in government were most likely dead weight. But basically stories like this.
I had my last review on the 31st of January, and I had the highest rating that you can get on a review, less than 21 days before I was terminated for my performance.
You voted for Donald Trump.
I did.
Do you regret that vote?
Yes, I do.
But what I'm noticing is that it's always the same lady, over and over again. They keep trying to manufacture this whole idea that Trump voters are jumping ship in droves, but obviously it's not really this grand phenomenon when they have nothing to show for it except the same recycled testimony from the same couple of employees. But this idea of Trump voter regret is honestly kind of rich, because as the media is laser focused on this fake drama that doesn't really exist, they seem to be ignoring a much bigger and actually much more relevant story, which is telling the exact opposite story. You know, like the United Auto Workers president, Shawn Fain, now flipping on the Democrats and basically singing the praise of Donald Trump and this administration thanks to his auto industry tariff policy. Yeah, it seems like the bigger story is, again, the exact opposite. Not that people regret voting for Trump, but that probably a whole chunk of people, especially in the working class, regret not voting for Donald Trump had they voted for Kamala. And let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so take a look at this. Here's United Auto Worker Shawn Fain singing praise for this administration.
We are ecstatic to see an administration finally address the unfair trade laws in this country. These laws have destroyed the American working class. They've destroyed communities in this country and virtually every state for decades.
Kind of wild, I gotta tell you, especially if you remember this guy's face. This is the guy who literally was campaigning for Kamala Harris. He's a Democrat union boss, and now he's singing Trump's praises on auto tariffs. This is the guy who called Donald Trump a scab.
For us in the labor movement, it's real simple. Kamala Harris is one of us. She's a fighter for the working class. And Donald Trump is a scab.
And it's funny how the mainstream media largely is pretending as if this doesn't exist. No, they'd rather focus on creating these character profiles, telling the story of disgruntled federal employees, of course, instead of highlighting any of this. And trust me, it's not like this story is new. This has been happening for a while here. A couple weeks back, Shawn Fain actually explained his stance on tariffs.
You have come out strongly in favor of his tariffs. Can you explain why?
We're in a crisis mode in this country. You know, there is no single issue in this country that has affected our economy and working class people and their jobs than NAFTA, the USMCA, and our trade laws, our broken trade system. And we're in a crisis mode. We are triaging right now. So I hear this debate about, blanket tariffs and all this stuff. But look, we're in a triage situation. Tariffs are an attempt to stop the bleeding from the hemorrhaging of jobs in America for the last 33 years. So as we speak right now, decisions are still being made. Warren Truck Plant right here in Michigan. There's over 2,000 people laid off, and a simple decision. Stellantis is shifting truck production to Mexico. They could change overnight and move those trucks right back here to Warren, Michigan, and put people back to work. You have Deere workers in Racine, Wisconsin. We have Mack truck workers in Allentown, Pennsylvania, where the companies saying they're going to move their jobs to Mexico. So tariffs aren't the end solution, but they are a huge factor in fixing this problem.
Do you think that it's possible that Donald Trump might just be the president after those long 3 decades you just described? He might just be the president this time to help bring back manufacturing jobs to the United States?
The election's over. Donald Trump is the president, and we want to get to work to fix the problems that are wrong with this country, with our economy. The American people expect that. They expect leaders to stand up and lead. They don't expect us to sit back, and they don't care about politics. They don't care which party somebody's from. They care about solving their problems. That's one thing Donald Trump has done. He's acknowledged the USMCA didn't go far enough. There's an urgency now to fix this problem, and that's what we're going to work on. We're working with the administration now, and we'll see where it ends up. But I will say this, name me one president in the last 25 years that's talked about doing these things and trying to fix this broken system.
And he's absolutely dead on. The tariffs aren't anti-trade or anti-American or whatever tired buzzwords CNN is using this week. They're pro-American. They're pro-worker. They're about making sure American jobs stay in America and that American workers aren't getting undercut by cheap labor overseas or manipulated markets. And so the question I'm asking myself is, who do the Democrats and their allies in the media actually work for? Because it's starting to feel, honestly, like they're on the side of foreign nations. They're melting down over tariffs as if American citizens are supposed to feel bad that foreign economic interests aren't being prioritized over American economic interests. And they're feeding into the anti-Trump outrage machine that, in my view, makes absolutely no sense. I mean, this week, after the auto tariffs were announced, or the plan to implement certain limited tariffs targeting parts and cars that are imported that don't meet USMCA requirements, well, after that announcement, here's what this little Doug Ford clown said.
I can assure you one thing, we're going to make sure that we inflict as much pain as possible to the American people without inflicting pain on the Canadian population.
The Premier of Ontario is out here talking about applying maximum pain to Americans. I mean, who does this guy think he is? And why are the Democrats and the mainstream media siding again with foreign interests? You know, Canada has tariffs on dairy products north of 200%. Nobody says a word. But the moment Trump wants to protect the American auto industry, American workers, and the American economy, he's the villain? It's complete nonsense, and the entitlement here is totally wild to me. Because this Canadian outrage to me reads as if they feel entitled to American jobs. I mean, these are American companies. It's not like Donald Trump is stealing a Canadian industry. He's taking back an American industry that was completely gutted and sent over the border. I don't even freaking get it. I can't wrap my head around it. The level of entitlement is unreal. And I keep hearing the Canadian auto industry, Canadian auto industry. There is no Canadian auto industry. There's not a single Canadian car brand. And the idea that they're entitled to those jobs at the detriment of the American worker, it just doesn't make sense to me. And the idea that the reaction would be, well, if you take your jobs back, we're going to inflict maximum damage on you. It's frankly disgusting. What Trump's doing isn't gutting a foreign industry. He's not attacking a foreign country economically. He's implementing policies that bring American jobs working for American industries back home so that hopefully Detroit could be revitalized again. Has anybody been to Detroit recently? It's like a frickin' third world country. Well, Trump's focused on revitalizing the city, and the media wants you to think that that's a bad thing, that he's a villain for looking out for the interest of an American city and American industry as the American president. Make it frickin' make sense, please. You know, it's obvious we can't have a rational, fact-based conversation about any of these ideas anymore, because the moment Trump's name is involved, emotion takes over, and building on these unhinged Trump notions obviously takes priority. There's no logic, no consistency, just rage and fear, and of course defense of the globalist status quo. And it's so telling that they don't want to tell that story. They don't want to tell the story of blue-collar union workers siding with President Trump and the Republican Party. No, instead they'd rather do these profiles of a couple disgruntled federal employees. That tells you all that you need to know. But again, the real story is that the United Auto Workers seem to be flipping, and they're singing praise of an administration that finally has their back and is doing something to benefit the American working class. No foreign nation is entitled to the American market, and the only people in my view who are entitled to American jobs and American industry should be American workers. And I don't think that's a crazy or radical thing to say. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.